7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Be My Guest podcast, where we interview inspiring entrepreneurs who share their stories and their insights and much, much more. You made a great choice tuning in today to the Be My Guest podcast. Welcome and enjoy the show.
All right, we got everything squared away with this new episode of Be My Guest podcast. We got another great guest coming on here that we're interviewing today that I'm excited to share their story and all the things they do. But before I do, don't forget, if you want to be interviewed on our podcast, go to BeMyGuestPodcast.com, BeMyGuestPodcast.com. Click on Get Interviewed, and we'd love to chat with you about the possibility of bringing you on and interviewing you, so you can share your story and insights as well. Without further ado, I want to bring Coach George on and have him share his story and insights as well. So, hey, first of all, thanks, Coach George, for coming on and being a part of the interview today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor. Thank you.
No problem at all. Why don't you take a moment, introduce yourself, tell everybody what you do and why and how you got started.
Yeah, my name is Georges Cordoba, and I was actually born in South America of parents from Spain and Greece after World War II, first generation. But I came to the States in 1980 to play NCAA tennis, and with a full ride scholarship, so I was able to study computer science, and then I met my honey here in college. And so we got married and started my life here since 1980. And everything was going well for me in terms of my career. I was hired by IBM and moved to Florida to be in Boca Raton, although I was living in Miami, Florida, and started to build a family. Our first kid was born in the state of New Mexico, where I studied at New Mexico State University. The other 4 were born in Miami, Florida. And as I was progressing my career and my wife as well, I was diagnosed with advanced melanoma. And that was about 3 weeks after my mother passed from cancer. And I should say and share this because it's going to have an importance later on as we talk. I'm half Greek, and from my family, my Greek family, when I looked at the family landscape, I thought I would be doomed. I actually grew up fearing cancer. I first experience was losing my grandfather, my Greek grandfather, and then his 2 brothers, all 3 of them from colon cancer. Then later on, one of my grandmother's sister, and 2 or 3 years later, her other sister from breast cancer, and the list went on. Cousins of my mother, my uncle, my mother's brother, and finally, through the years, my mother. And 3 weeks after that, I was diagnosed with the disease. So I always felt like I would be plagued with this, doomed, and it happened. So the reason I share this is because, remember the secret, the rules of the mind. Sometimes what you don't want, you get. And in my case, with 5 young kids at the time, it wasn't the best news at all. It was very stressful. I was actually running a project for Accenture. After IBM, I was actually hired by Accenture, and I was running a project. I was at that time I was a client partner, and I was running a huge project for Royal Caribbean cruise lines. And all of a sudden, basically at that time, when we were mid through that project, I was diagnosed. And I had no idea, being in the corporate world, that how amazing. Whether you're an employee, a director, whatever, I was already as a CTO. I was chief technology officer. After that, I mean, when as soon as I was promoted, I I got my diagnosis. So um, I tried to manage it for about 8 months, but I had to, at the end of the day, my team was, we were very, very close teams. When you work with Accenture, it's regional. So I knew all these folks, but I couldn't really manage such a huge project. So that was the first, let's say, um, you know, uh, issue that I had professionally. But as a person, being an athlete, I could not believe it. It was an emotional roller coaster. I wanted a second diagnosis. I just could not take it. And then having the five young kids, from 6 to 13, a pair of twins that were 10 in the middle. It was really additional stress and anxiety for me. So, as I say, I kept trying to go to my continue my professional career. I even flew a few times, but as the chemo and all this stuff started to take toll of me, I had to really make decisions. And for me, it was it was surviving. I made a point that I was going to be the first person in my family from the Greek side that would survive this thing. And so, and I did. I used many things that I'll share in a second. But all in all, nobody. I don't wish a diagnosis of this type for anyone. Cancer continues to be a very scary thing. And by the way, everybody goes, the mind, by the way, Frankie, it goes to one of the rules of the 12 rules of the mind is that it goes to what's familiar. And for us in the West, what's familiar is just running to an oncologist. There's no other option. I didn't have another option, and I grew up seeing that anyway. But it turns out that there are other options. And on year 7, after my first, I had the melanoma metastasized to my brain. I had 8 tumors in my brain, and 2 of them ended up being not operable. But I did have 4 brain surgeries and 2 gamma knives in the midst of this 10-year battle. But on year 8, after my first craniotomy, like I said, they had to actually, I don't know if you can see the scar, but it was from ear to ear. And they removed a pretty large melanoma tumor in my front lobe. It was actually affecting my vision. I was stuttering, affecting my speech. And thank God everything went well. A little bit of a cavity. They told me that it would be much worse, and it didn't. Every single craniotomy, they tell you, or you actually even think, man, I might not come out of this one. But on almost year 8, I decided to go natural. I just talked to I have good doctors and surgeons in my family. Actually, they're in your state, Florida. And they all thought I was crazy. This, no, 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 keep going. Just because, these guys, and by the way, don't get me wrong, if it wasn't for those 10 surgeries and an amazing neurosurgeon, I probably would not be talking to you. I'm not against that. What I really have an issue is in this conventional treatments, and I have to say, I'll keep it for later. But there's an enormous business behind the scenes with this stuff, and so. But anyway, I decided to go natural, and at that moment when I made that decision, against even my wife, she's in the medical field. as an ultrasound tech and radiology tech. Um, she changed after my experience. We both actually went to health and wellness, but so I went natural. I in and at that moment, Frank, uh, basically the universe. I'm a person of faith. That played a big role. I don't. We don't have enough time to do that, but I share it in my book. Remember, there were two brain tumors that were not operable in my back lobe, and so there's a story behind that, and it has to do with faith. I had to actually take a leap of faith to stop this traditional stuff that I've seen since I was 4 years old. Managing my team in the beginning, the first 2 years before I just basically resigned. It was crazy because there were some folks that left key resources for my projects, and so I had to really manage to come up with equally talented folks, and too much stress, which we don't need.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So out of all that, when you made that decision, what was the hardest part of it all?
The hardest part, really, for me, um, I was certain about this. I always had this intuition within me, which all of us have, but we lose that power and give it to other people. In my case, what the hardest part was um, convincing my wife, convincing my friends and family, and my father, who had just in the beginning, lost my mom, his wife. They thought, for them there's no other alternative, and the truth is that about nearly 50% of those that take conventional stuff don't make it.
Hmm.
I mean, it's but the hardest part was that, and so I had to really make a bold decision and do it anyway. They thought I
Hmm.
was crazy, but then as they saw how I was getting better and better, I had no coaching at the time, but I did a lot of reading, Frankie, about the root causes of the disease.
Hmm.
People continue to get recurrences when you're going through your chemo and stuff. The reason for that is because the doctors, they're not psychologists, they're not nutritionists. This guys, they only know the one thing, and so they're trying to help you by throwing the kitchen sink on you, trying different things, and you become like a guinea pig. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, if they don't find, and they don't care what the root cause was, but until you find that root cause, you're going to continue to have recurrences until maybe they tell you, hey, you know what? You got to go home. We can't do anything else. We couldn't find anything that could help you out. And the truth is, and I have to say this, um, healing happens from the inside out.
Hmm.
If you get to the point, but again, it's a mindful thing. If you get to the point and you learn the other rules of the mind, which I'm going to share with you and your audience, I have to put another link in there with some good stuff in there. But if you realize that you are responsible for what you got, and stop saying like, why me, look at that, they're having fun in this party and I'm feeling like crapping here and all this stuff, and then the kids, wow, what's going to happen to them? If you play that game, you're going to win that game, you're going to be winning that game. But if you realize, hey, it was this is what happened to me, I caused this thing on me, so if I did cause it for me, I have that. I'll have the power to reverse it, and that's typically what happened to all those 8 million Georges that are out there in the United States that
Yeah.
decided to go natural. Yeah,
What do you mean by you're the one that caused it?
um, we have to take responsibility of. Our bodies are perfect. So something happened in there that did not quite settle in there, and that's how the disease started. And so
Mhm.
as I learned more and more, I found out that first of all chronic diseases initiate on bodies that are inflamed, too acidic. You know, our diet in the United States particularly is 90% acidic, and so that's one way over there. For me, it was obviously they also say that all chronic disease, no exceptions, are emotional. I
Mhm.
was going through a lot of emotions with my mom's, especially her last year of life, and but there's many other components in there that makes us sick.
Yeah.
And as a nutritionist, I can tell you that we cause that on us. As a matter of fact, in my book, I have a colleague that actually stood up his he stood up his oncologist. He got his colon operation for colon cancer, and the whole family, they were waiting for him the day of his first chemo, and he never showed up.
Hmm.
He stood him up. He says, "No, man, I'm not gonna do this. I don't see any. I don't know anybody in that has survives 5 years after their chemotherapy and stuff." So, but for example, as a nutritionist, I can tell you that all disease, Frankie, starts in your gut. And you may think, whoa, what, how is that? Well, there's many reasons, but the connection between the gut and the brain through this vagus nerve uh, actually converse with the with our nervous system. And there, in most of the cases, the nervous system, Georges is stressed out. We cannot have a good digestion. It's not like, relax and digest. It's more like fight or flight. We're always in that mode. Eating in 10 minutes, chewing only 6 times, and then swallowing. So when you realize that you were doing all this stuff on top of being stressed, trying to do 1,000 things at one time, my MBA, this and that, my career, my kids going camping and teaching them tennis and soccer. I was nonstop. So one thing that was really affected with all that was my sleeping, which is important. It's important to sleep. So
Yeah.
there's many things, and here's one thing that I loved from this survivor that I told you. I quote him in my book. He says, "Cancer is a divine touch on your shoulder, and that touch has a message, and that message is, hey, Georges, you gotta change your lifestyle because you're killing yourself. If you realize that it is you, you have the power to say, you know what, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna reverse this." And it happened for me. I can say, like I was telling you before we started, I decided to go natural, and here I am 12 years later, uh, cancer free.
That's amazing. 12 years of cancer free. And how many you said,
10
you said you,
years
10 years?
fighting the disease, 10
Yeah.
years and 10 surgeries.
And so successful that you're now taking on clients yourself, helping them do the same thing. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
For me, as I share, but for me, the surviving this battle was a blessing because, in a way, God gave me the chance to sing the song I was born to sing, which is helping people. As a youngster, I would go to missions, in the border with Colombia or Brazil, and with the natives, and help them out, and it was. But also, I just, it is scary. It is scary what's happening with the state of health right here in the United States. Like I told you, one of two men will have cancer, and one of three women. And if we don't make any changes by 2030, 50% of our nation will be obese.
Mm.
That's around the corner.
Wow.
So, I'm doing everything I can, being booked and to talk, whether it's 10 people or 1,500 people. It's just going out there. For me, it's not a job. It's almost like my mission, my purpose.
Yeah, that's amazing. And when people are working with you or you're working with them, what's some of the process they can expect, or what do you walk them through to help them start
Yeah,
changing things around?
great question. I'm a health coach, but I really study holistic coaching, transformational coaching, and hypnotherapy. So holistic coaching means that I work, and I use the metaphor for the four legs of the table. My program it's 90 days, it's 3 months, and the four legs of the table. One of the legs is your physical body. The other one is your emotional body, your mental body, and your spiritual body. So in those 3 months, we work on each of the legs of the table to try to get. If one of those legs is missing, you can't eat in that table. The table can't stand. But in many cases, it's not that. It's like all four legs of the table are really loose, and it's also shaky. And so we work on how to eat. We work on how to visualize, how to meditate, how to make some room for you to have time for you during every single day of your life. The time is yours. We are the ones that choose. Hey, yeah, I'm gonna spend it like this way, that way, or another way. But that time is not renewable, and people don't seem to understand that. So
Mm.
we go through a lot of stuff that is also philosophical, but knowing that all disease is emotional too. So I work on making people understand that how to rid of all the acidic stuff that they have in their body. And part of what I'm going to give you guys away, and I didn't put the link. I'll do it when you uh, you know, in a second. But it's really bringing, and this is the first thing I learned when I went natural. Plus, I had already almost 8 years on me with so much acidity with the chemo and the radiotherapy. My body was just like a 4th of July inside of me. And I saw it. I received the scan, a non-invasive scan with this naturopath. And he's the one that told me, look, your problem and the problem for many people is that they are everybody has an acidic body, and as a matter of fact, 3 weeks ago in Toronto in the summit that I was invited to speak, I met a holistic MD. He's an MD, but he had cancer and nothing was working for him, so he started to look for alternatives, and he realized, my goodness, he got to a point that he dropped the chemo. So the whole thing that this guy told me, the naturopath, was, hey, George, if we manage to bring your alcohol to have a balanced pH, not too alkaline, not too acidic, disease cannot grow in a balanced pH system. So now you have it. So if you go to having a balanced pH, you're going to start in getting rid of that environment that the cancer cells and disease strive to duplicate and stuff like that. And if you don't have a disease, it's going to be very hard for you to get sick if you don't have an inflamed body.
Mhm.
So that's the very amazing. I was doing a talk at a it's a corporate thing about here in tobacco. It's a tobacco company. When you chew tobacco and stuff like that, I'm not a fan of that. But they invited me to go, and man, it just when I was talking about that, that's so acidic. By the way, a can of soda. If you have a can of soda, any soda, you need to have 32 glasses of water to alkaline your body again, to put yourself back into a balanced pH. So think about those folks that have 2 or 3 sodas a day. What you're doing, just like that quote I told you, where people are killing themselves. And what is very interesting to me, it says it all. The pharma industry, their number one investment is the food industry, and vice versa.
Mm.
So you're thinking, what's going on over here? We call it healthcare. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, what's some of the first steps people can take if they're looking at trying to change things and not and do it more natural versus the
Yeah.
standard way?
Well, the first thing, let's assume that, well, if there's somebody in your audience that's going through cancer, again, we can have a clarity call that you'll see maybe 15 minute, 30 minute. But if you're not sick, it's really prevention. It's really learning some tips. For example, um, as a nutritionist, basically I specialize on the digestive tract. And I learned that when it comes to nutrition and digestion, 25% is what you eat, Frankie, and 75% is who you are when you're eating. Are you stressed out? Are you in a hurry? Most people chew 6 times, no matter what type of food they have on their mouth. So you chew. The average American chews 6 times and throws that bomb to the stomach. Digestion starts in your mouth. This is something that we go through when we go through the spiritual leg of the physical leg of the table, because it's really learning how to eat. I call it sensual eating. Take your time, man. Take your time. Enjoy the colors of the food. And be mindful that probably 9 out of 10 people don't have that plate on a daily basis. So be thankful. Even you don't have to say or pray or anything. Be thankful that you have that in, and make sure that you chew enough so your saliva enzymes process the food before you swallow and send it to the stomach. Because what happens if you disrupt that, which is almost, like I say, almost 50% of the nation has issues with chronic diseases. When we do that, the stomach doesn't know what to do. It's not designed to do that. So it sends everything to fat, and that fat becomes acidic. But not only that, you did not, because it was interrupted, you didn't get the nutrients you need to go to the bloodstream and through the small intestine, your pancreas, your liver. So half hour later, you're hungry again. Your
Mm.
body didn't receive the nutrients. With this little tip, you could actually, so it's not easy. But what I teach my clients, because it's not theory, we go every session, you have an action guide for the week. And
Mm.
on third week, you have a new action guide, but you have to continue to practice the first 2 weeks what you learn. One of the things that I do is, hey, look, even make it a competition at home. Have to see how many who choose the most before they swallow, and then you take it's simple. You look at it yourself and say, man, I ate in 10 minutes and I have a whole hour. What do I do now? Because people are eating like that. They want to do errands, and they don't realize, people
Mm.
don't realize the damage that they're creating on in every meal. It
Mm.
gets to a point that your whole holistic self says, hey, here's a doctor bill, you're sick, you know. So
Yeah.
it's learning how to eat, learning not so much what to eat. Obviously, you have to eat healthier, but I'm not as a nutritionist, I don't believe in the extremes like keto or completely vegan or paleo. No, I teach my clients how to prepare or go in a restaurant and have a balanced pH meal.
Yeah.
I like to eat beef.
Mm.
So if I go out with my wife or we have a barbecue at home and we just have beef, which is one of the most acidic, other than alcohol, acidic, well, have it with asparagus, with a salad, something that is alkaline. So in this gift that I'm going to give you today, I have a book, an ebook. It's titled A Balanced pH and Your Health. And also, I'm sharing a table, and I call it alkaline table, that describes which foods are acidic and which foods are alkaline. So you can actually play around with it. And just by doing that, you are you're on your way of, obviously, it takes a little bit of change. And so it doesn't change right away. I always tell people, look, if you're going to change your couch in your house, you have to get rid of the old one, and the both couches don't. So that is the work of transformation that I do. We go, do things to throw at 21 days. On the emotional side, as a hypnotherapist, we go down to the subconscious mind and try to clear clutter that we have since we were, in some cases, in our mother's womb. And that stuff, those beliefs that we create between the ages of 1 and 9 or 10, some of them really, they're not good for us. They're producing, cortisol and serotonin and stuff like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, go ahead and, if you can, post those other links in there. I can put it.
Oh, yeah. I want to share that one because this is, there are some nice stuff in there. The Rules of the Mind, the ebook I told you, the table, how to water. I mean, it's important to understand that we need to have some certain amount of water every day. So there's also the tips of how to sleep tips.
That's good.
A bunch of little things there. They're worth, they're about, I don't know, maybe a little less than $1,000 because it's our life. If you don't invest on your health, I work with CEOs and, or folks that just became millionaires. And now for them, the most precious thing is, their career and their health. So they're willing to pay anything to get their health back. Let me see. Firestone. Here's the link.
Yeah, we're going to post that link for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And you yourself, you can get it, use that.
While you guys are doing that, you guys can look at the scrolling website at the bottom and the email so you can get a hold of Coach George for more information.
Yeah, you could actually do that or link through my Calendly. If you go through the site, and you're interested, even if it's just a discovery session, which is, like I said, complimentary, you can get a copy of that ebook. And the only thing you need to do is just do an intake form. So when we converse, we know, I know a little more of what you need clarity on.
Yep. All right. Well, Coach George, is there anything else you wanted to share today that the audience might need to hear from you?
Just don't be one of these statistics that they're right now. They're making us. They're real. And the other thing that I would like to leave you guys is no one will believe in you until you believe in you. And it's just a matter of regaining that power that we have since we're born, which is our intuition, our best coach. We give it away, and that's why we go and the doctor becomes our God. That's not right.
Right.
Correct. That's a mistake.
I want to take the time and tell you thank you for sharing today, man. Great insights. If you guys are interested in reaching out to him to get help and find out how he works, take a moment and look at the website, check him out, reach out to him and contact him. Thanks again, Coach George, for following up with us today.
Thank you, Frankie. I appreciate it.
You've been watching Be My Guest podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to be a guest on our podcast, go to BeMyGuestPodcast.com. That's BeMyGuestPodcast.com.